I'm Burt Green. This is the Burt Locker. Now, this is the MMA show that I used to do twice a week, but it's just started to get too much. Life gets in the way and everything like that. So, slight change to the format. I'm going to be taking a look at what's gone on, mostly UFC 309, also a quick look at UFC China that took place yesterday. But I'm going to do just a short show, preview what happened last week, and I'll be taking a look at what's going on at UFC 310, which is going to be next week, the next big event for the UFC. So I'm going to do it in one show. It's a lot easier for me logistically to do. And so this week it's going to be all about Jones versus Stipe, how much of a horrible man and brilliant fighter Peter Yan is. Well, no, I don't think he's a horrible man. I should retract that. Don't know him. Great guy. Never met him. So I'm going to be looking at all of that, plus taking a look forward to UFC 310, headlined by Pantoja and Asakura. I'll be honest, not huge on the main event, but there are some really top-class fights on there that you may not be aware of, so stick around for that one. But yeah, so let's get cracking. I'm going to start off by looking at Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic. I mean, first things first, I would like to say that, Jon Jones, he looked frightening. He looked like how I expect Jon Jones to look at heavyweight. He looked like how I expected him to look against Cyril Gane. Yeah, he was. I mean, he did everything he said he was going to do. He needed a highlight reel performance against Stipe Miocic, and he did that. He did that and more. He looked so good, so calculated, so cerebral. And yeah, he reminded me and a lot of people just exactly what Jon Jones is about. I've always said Jon Jones is the greatest light heavyweight to ever put on gloves. I don't think that can be disputed at this point. The only questions going forward would be how he looks at heavyweight. Now, as good as Jon Jones looked, I will say that as much as it breaks my heart, Stipe did not look like Stipe. He didn't look good. He looked slow. And, Jon Jones, he blasted that. It was, in case you haven't seen it, spoiler alert, go and watch the fight, then come back to this. I'm sure you've watched it by now. But that spinning back kick that finished the fight. Also, just FYI, I have done some checking into it. People say, Stipe had a lacerated kidney, broken ribs, everything else. He didn't, actually. There were no broken ribs. I'm sure it hurt a lot, and it was a horrible, horrible kick. But yeah, Stipe's more or less fine. But either way, that kick was savage. It was absolutely savage. But the reason he was able to land that was because Stipe was just kind of standing there, letting him set things up. He was kind of standing just against the fence, just letting him set things up. And that brings me to the next point, is that obviously there's a lot of back and forth. Is Jon going to fight Tom Aspinall? Let's be clear on this. Tom, his next fight has to be for the undisputed heavyweight title. He has carried the division since Jon Jones got injured. Fair enough, look, it's an injury. It is what it is. I still think the title should be, if it's a long injury, I still think the title should be stripped so the division can move on, because no fighter should be bigger than the company. No fighter should be bigger than the sport. The division should move on, and then the champion gets first crack at the new champion when they come back. That's just how I feel it should be done. They didn't do it that way. They did an interim title. Tom Aspinall ends up defending the interim title, which is bizarre. That should never have happened. The interim champion should not have more title defenses than the heavyweight champion. That is bizarre. It's not like Jon came in and beat a long-standing heavyweight champion. He beat he beat Cyril Gane for the vacant belt. That's not taking anything away from Jon Jones. He looked frightening. He looked truly frightening. But Tom Aspinall is not Stipe Miocic. And to be honest, Stipe Miocic 4 or 5 years ago, I think that's a different fight completely. Stipe looked, he he looked like a shadow of his former self. He did. And again, I'm not taking anything away from John Jones. I think that performance from John Jones, I was in the camp of Tom Aspinall beats John Jones. Now I'm in the camp of Tom Aspinall could beat John Jones, but let's be fair, John Jones could easily beat Tom Aspinall as well. And that's really changed my outlook on that fight. I still think it's the fight to make. It's the fight that has to happen. I don't want to hear of all this kind of, I want a super fight against Alex Pereira. That's ridiculous. John Jones his arguments are so flawed when it comes to this. Now, I think there's a good chance that it's just John being a brilliant mastermind and selling the fight. But when he says things like he won't fight dangerous up and comers anymore because he has no obligation to do that, actually, as a champion, that's exactly what your obligation is. As champion, that is what you are obligated to do, is defend the belt from the next contenders. And those next contenders are going to be young up-and-comers. They are going to be dangerous fighters. And if you're the champion, if you want to hold that belt, that's exactly what your obligation is. So if you no longer want to have that belt, if you no longer want to fight those guys and you just want to fight quote-unquote fun fights, go ahead. But the belt has to go to the guy who is willing to defend it from the next most dangerous man, and that next most dangerous man is Tom Aspinall. Make no mistake about that. Will Tom Aspinall beat John Jones? I don't know. John Jones, he's the greatest of all time for a reason, right? Time will catch up with him eventually, at which point, if he's saying, I'm too old to fight these young, dangerous guys, then he needs to just vacate the belt and hang it up. Because he keeps saying that, Tom Aspinall needs to build his legacy. It's like, why should I let him build his legacy off of the back of my name? It's like, John, Shogun, Machida, do you know what I mean? Rampage, all of those guys, they didn't let you build your name off of their legendary status, but they gave you the opportunity. And now, as champion, that is what you need to do. That's how the sport works. That's what being the champion is. So I'll break down the Tom versus John fight close to the time. I think it's a very different fight to the Stipe fight. John likes to he watches tape religiously, and there isn't that much tape on Tom Aspinall because he gets people out there so quickly. Tom is fast. He's frighteningly fast, and his grappling is on another level. But John might be the smartest in terms of fight IQ that the sport has ever seen. And also, he's just dangerous. In that ground and pound, the elbows, the wrestling, he's so dangerous in every way. It's the fight to make, and it's the fight that I want to see. I don't know who wins. I think Tom could beat him, but I think it could easily go the other way as well. But for me, the fight has to be Tom Aspinall or strip the belt. Tom Aspinall or strip the belt. That's all I'm interested in. Also, the other thing that I take away from UFC 309 is that Michael Chandler is a dirty bird, isn't he? He is a dirty bird. He was eye gouging the whole way, and eye gouging and back head striking on his way to a convincing loss. A convincing loss. He lost so convincingly. He was a punching bag for the first 3 rounds. He really was. Look, I like Chandler. I think he's so much fun to watch. He's a great personality, but it's odd. It's odd when you have Chandler getting beaten so convincingly, and then he's interviewed afterwards and he's calling people out still, like he just looked like a destroyer, and it's like you just got beaten really convincingly. He stands there and talks, Connor, get your house in order and beat me if you can. And I will be totally honest. I know that people don't want to hear this because people don't like Conor McGregor and they like to try and deny how good he was. There was a point that McGregor's striking was some of the best in the UFC. His striking is still really, really dangerous. And Chandler, he does not move his head off the center line. He gets hit so often, so readily. Chandler, he's big, he's powerful, he's strong, right? He hits hard, but he doesn't move particularly well. He doesn't keep his head off the center line. Conor McGregor would probably bounce his head off the canvas like a basketball. He'd probably go about introducing your orbital to my shin bone, that kind of thing. That's what Conor would probably do to Michael Chandler at this. But based on the Michael Chandler that I saw against Charles Oliveira at the weekend, it also Conor's quite a lot bigger. Like his frame, he's longer, he's bigger than Chandler. I feel like there's a good chance that fight looks a lot like the Conor Eddie Alvarez fight. I feel like at a certain point it might not even look fair, but Conor's got his own legal battle, and also that Conor that fought Eddie Alvarez, that was a few whiskeys and a few bags ago now, wasn't it? So is that Conor still in existence? We don't know. But what I would say is that a lot of people have said that Chandler will kill Conor. I don't know if that's true. Actually, I really don't. I like Chandler, but there's nothing technically brilliant about what he does. He's entertaining, he's spectacular, and when he hits hard, and he can really get those heart real knockouts. But actually, a really good technical striker will pick him apart every single time. I do believe that. And so then we move on to the UFC 310 preview. Not so fussed about the main event. The rest of the card is absolutely fire. Look at some of these matchups. I'm going to just go over the ones that kind of excite me. So the debut on the early prelims is you got Thaleson Teixeira, Brazilian fella, 6'7", heavyweight, 7 wins, 6 knockouts, 1 submission. He's an absolute monster. He's got like this lovely tattoo in the middle of his chest. He looks like he could be in a gang. That's what you want. You want that in a fight. And now, obviously, look, his opponent, Lucas Bratsky, he is good. He is a good, solid heavyweight. But make no mistake, the side of this that I'm excited about is Thaleson Teixeira. I won't pretend it's anything different. Look, maybe Thaleson Teixeira gets found out very quickly, but he got a first round knockout at the Dana White Contender Series, and he's just a monstrous human being. There's something I enjoy watching about those monstrous human beings. It's why heavyweight is the premier division. And you've got this guy who's 6'7", a legitimate heavyweight, coming in and looking really, really good. I'm interested to see how he looks. So keep an eye on Thaleson Teixeira. I'm taking round 1 knockout in that one. Then you've got Clay Guida against Chase Hooper on here as well. I think Chase Hooper likely beats the crap out of Guida, but this is such a changing of the guard. You've got the old veteran in Clay Guida, the young, kind of he's had his losses here and there. Chase Hooper, but he's technically really, really good, and he's starting to use his length a lot better as well. That's what she said. And Clay Guida, Clay Guida will make it as difficult as he can for Chase Hooper. I think Chase Hooper's starting to believe in his technical abilities, and I do think that he's probably going to get the win in that one. But that's a really interesting fight. Michael Chiesa against Max Griffin is another really, really interesting fight. I don't know quite who takes that one. Chiesa hasn't looked good since he's had 1 foot in, 1 foot out, where he's been on the analyst desk. I like him as an analyst. I think he needs to go out that route. But the problem is, when some of these fighters are on the analyst desk and they're 1 foot in, 1 foot out, unfortunately, it doesn't seem to bode brilliantly well for their fighting career. They start going downhill pretty quickly, and I've seen that in Michael Chiesa. But that's a good fight against Max Griffin. Chris Weidman and Eric Anders. It was slated for a few weeks ago. I believe one of them got sick, and either way, they're doing this at catch weight. So I'm assuming 175. I don't know, 180. I don't know. We'll find out, I guess. But Eric Anders is no joke. Chris Weidman, he still believes he's got the skills to do it. We'll see if he can back that up. For me, my smart money would be on Eric Anders. I don't think Eric Anders is unbeatable, though. I think this is a good litmus test to see where Chris Weidman is at this point in his career. Mosfet Evloev against Aljamain Sterling. This is going to be obviously at featherweight. Aljamain Sterling's been looking really good at featherweight. Obviously, long-time bantamweight king. Mosfiev, he's a Russian stud. So it's going to that again. It's going to be a really interesting one for the division. That Brian Battle's back in action. He's taking on Randy Brown. That's a really interesting fight. I think that Battle's the favourite in that one. I think rightly so. I think Brian Battle, he's really coming into his own. His clinch work is outstanding. His knees, and he's got great power. He's got really good submissions, especially the chokes from the north-south position. I really enjoy that. But Randy Brown, he's come into his own as well. He's really gotten this confidence in his striking and his footwork has come along leaps and bounds. He's going to be hard to pin down and hard to put out there. So that's a really interesting fight. Vicente Luque and Nick Diaz is still on the UFC's website, but we do know that fight is off. I think Vicente Luque is now fighting Thembo Garumba. So yeah, is that as interesting as seeing Nick Diaz? Yeah, probably. I wasn't that bothered about that fight. I don't like this whole Nick Diaz comeback thing, especially against a killer like Vicente Luque. So I think I kind of dodged a bullet there, and so did my heart, because I love the Diaz brothers. And then for some reason, they're both ranked 12th in the light heavyweight division. Dominic Reyes against Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith is another one. He's on the desk a lot. He's on one of my favourite podcasts to watch, the Believe You Me podcast. Absolutely love Anthony Smith. However, since being 1 foot in, 1 foot out, you have to wonder what's that going to do for his performances. He didn't look particularly good against Khalil Roundtree Jr. He didn't look good against Rakic. He's not looked good, in some time. Like he turned back the clock when he fought that kickboxer whose name escapes me, but he tapped him out really, really quickly. That name will come back to me. Brazilian fella, ever so good. He's an absolute monstrous kickboxer. The name will come back to me, but it'll come back to me long after I've finished filming this video. But you know who I mean. You do know who I mean. Dominic Reyes, obviously, both of these guys suffered the same thing. They fought John Jones and never really looked quite the same. So now we've got to just see who's kind of in a better position here. And that's what we're going to find out, really. Dominic Reyes, he's got some sick power. He really does. Especially the straight punches down the middle. He throws them down the pipe really, really well. And for that reason, he covers quite a lot of distance. Anthony Smith, I would say that he's probably a slightly better all-rounder. I reckon that on the feet, Reyes has got a pretty good shot. But I think Anthony Smith, if he takes this down, I think his jiu-jitsu could get this one done. I'm hoping Anthony Smith is looking for the best avenues to win the fights rather than to be spectacular. Bryce Mitchell against Kron Gracie. That's just going to be a battle of who's got the best grappling. Obviously, Kron Gracie is elite, but Bryce Mitchell is also shown to be elite. I don't think Bryce is going to have to worry too much about the standing, and neither is Kron. So yeah, look, that's a jiu-jitsu fight in MMA gloves, honestly. But I don't hate it. You've got the Kron Gracie name. Bryce Mitchell is, he thinks the earth is as flat as a pancake. I love that. I love that he sticks with his convictions. So yeah, fair play. Let's see who comes out in that one. Cyril Gane versus Alexander Volkov 2. Cyril Gane was far too quick for Volkov when they first fought. I don't see that being any different now. You see Cyril Gane on the feet. He's just so fast, it's preposterous. And Volkov, when they first fought, Volkov had a look on his face like, what the hell is going on? This is ridiculous. I think it'll be a decision again. Cyril Gane will win that one, I would have thought. Volkov's got power though, but I just don't think he's gonna. I don't think he's got the speed to touch Cyril Gane, and he doesn't. He's not usually known for his grappling either, which I think is the main issue there. I think the blueprint to beat Cyril Gane has been written. However, that blueprint isn't what Volkov is known for. So I do think that Cyril Gane gets the win there. But then my favourite fight of the night. This is the main event in all but name. It really is. Shavkat Rakhmonov against Ian Machado Gary. Someone's O has to go. Shavkat Rakhmonov, what is he? 18-0, 18 finishes. Like the guy's a monster. I've had my eye on Shavkat Rakhmonov for so long now, and I've been talking about him to anyone that will listen. I think he is the uncrowned champ. He's the most dangerous guy in the welterweight division by far. You know, whoever wins this will fight. I forget the name. Mohammed. So I did there because anyway. Um, so yeah, but you know, Machado Gary is no joke. He's so good at keeping the distance. He uses his length well. He's 6'3", which is tall for the division. His striking is his striking is not spectacular, but my God, is it brilliant. He's so good at managing distance. He doesn't really get the credit that he deserves because he is annoying as all hell, much like myself. But at the end of the day, Ian Gary, you have to respect what he can do as a fighter. He is so goddamn good. And you know what? Do you know what I really like about Gary? Is he plays it safe quite a lot. He's a winner. He knows how to win, and he will not take unnecessary risks, and that is why he's undefeated at 15-0. Shavkat Rakhmonov is so good that he can take risks, and he will get in there and he'll smash people. He's 18-0, 18 finishes. The grappling is on a level. Look, Rakhmonov knows that he will be better in one particular area. I don't think that he's necessarily better than Gary on the feet, but I don't think that Rakhmonov has to keep it on the feet. I'd say that Ian Gary has to keep it on the feet. If he goes to the ground with Rakhmonov, I think Rakhmonov's going to kill him. And also, I think if it stays on the feet, there's a chance that Rakhmonov could kill him because he's got some really elite level kickboxing as well. People think that Rakhmonov is just a grappler. He isn't. He's got some brilliant kickboxing, but I think that gives Ian Gary the best path to victory. I don't think that Rakhmonov is interested in giving Ian Gary any path to victory. For me, I'm taking Rakhmonov in that one. But hey, look, if it stays standing, like and say Shavkat Rakhmonov can't get him to the ground because we don't know, but Gary's no slouch. Look, if it stays on the feet, then Gary could win it. But for me, my pick is Rakhmonov in that one. And the main event, I'm not going to pretend that I care about. But for me, the main event, Rakhmonov versus Ian Gary. But that's a hell of a card, isn't it? Hell of a card. I'll be doing some terrible bets. What we're doing is putting them together on accumulators, things like that. But when's that coming our way? That's Sunday, December 8th. So that's not next week, is it? That's the week after. So 2 weeks' time. So yeah, if anything big happens in the MMA world, I'll possibly dip back in. But I'll be doing some terrible bets on the UFC 310 card, possibly next week in the run-up. But yeah, if you could do me a favor, just hit like, hit subscribe, all that good stuff. And until next time, keep all those odds long and keep the bets terrible.